You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there. My name is Kelly Barner, and today is Friday, March 7th, 2025.
6.
I'd like to start this week's Procurement 6 with something of a public service announcement, like those "The More You Know" ads which ran on NBC in the 1990s. There are a lot of intense stories out there right now. Diversity, tariffs, layoffs, etc. My request would be, let's keep it kind. I love getting comments on my posts, but I never cease to be amazed by how cruel people are willing to be. Absolutely disagree with what's being shared, and point out mistakes if you find them. But let's keep it civil for the good of the community and the quality of the exchange.
5.
Becoming a customer of choice for suppliers actually enables procurement to deliver for their stakeholders and the company's end customers. But in order to be successful in that effort, procurement needs to connect the services we are managing to the customer experience we are providing, and understand how all of this comes together, the service, the supplier, and the spend, to affect revenue. In this clip, taken from this week's Art of Procurement podcast episode, I was talking with Gordon Donovan from SAP about how procurement can evolve and mature services spend management. Let's listen to a bit of what Gordon had to say.
You're going to see an increase potentially in services type contracts where you're going to try and almost put a middle person in because you're going to need to have more suppliers that you're actually doing business with. The supplier centricity and the supplier relationship is going to increase. You need to become a customer of choice because where you've got scarcity of supply, you need to ensure that the supplier wants to supply to you. So just ask yourself the question, what would make you want to do something for somebody else? There has to be something in it for you. And at the moment, I don't think that there's something in it for us being contained to, well, we're not going to take things away from you. Is that going to motivate people to do more? Or is it motivating people just to do exactly what they're putting? And for some contracts, that's absolutely right. All I want is you to do this. I don't need necessarily my stationery provider to be innovative in the way that it delivers it. You know?
Just print it straight.
Yeah.
And make sure it doesn't rip when I tear it off the pad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas other things I might want, I want the latest. I want to understand because, again, thinking about my end customer, what's my end customer want? How am I going to help service my end customer? I think those things are important to have all of these things kind of aligned together.
Going back to one of the questions Gordon asked there, what would make you want to do something for somebody else? This is sort of a do unto others mentality that can't be stressed enough when procurement gets closer to customers and therefore the company's top line.
4.
In this week's episode of Art of Supply, I return to a topic I first covered in October of 2024, the East and Gulf Coast port strikes. Now that the International Longshoremen's Association membership has ratified the contract with the U.S. Maritime Alliance, all that is left to do is sign, and that is scheduled for March 11th. As part of covering this story, I had an opportunity to connect with Mark Santoro, part of ILA Local 1588 in Bayonne, New Jersey. When the news broke that the contract had been ratified, I reached out to get his perspective. One of the things he shared with me really made an impression. Mark said, quote, "To my understanding, a small benefit production-wise will be incurred when human operators can process a move faster than previously, when the technology would have to pause during heavy vessel and yard operations running simultaneously, when the TOS would get overloaded with commands, much like any Windows desktop computer running too many open programs at the same time. Now the operator will actually improve on the speed in which those boxes can move." Now, technology is here to stay and even grow in importance. But the real wins come from human-to-machine cooperation. What the tech does best is different from what humans do best. And the best option of all may be to switch back and forth as circumstances dictate. I happen to think that is true whether we're talking about enterprise software or, as in Mark's case, port operations.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
If you're listening to this episode of Procurement 6 right around when it first airs, on March 7th, 2025, here's a tease for Monday's AOP podcast. Philip Eitzen and I are taking on the tough topic of what on earth is going on with supplier diversity. Spoiler alert, in all fairness, we don't have any concrete answers for you. But we do have some thoughts, a few reflections, and some advice. We recently ran a poll asking our online community how they would change their approach to supplier diversity if their company announced a change in DEI policy. A full 45% said they would change absolutely nothing. 29% said they would keep tracking but stop advocating for diverse-owned suppliers. And 21% said they would ask the C-suite for advice. Just 5% said they would pause their efforts. Time will tell, but in the meantime, consider yourself forewarned that changes are afoot. And of course, remember to listen in on Monday to hear our full conversation.
2.
An article from the Wall Street Journal this week suggests that consumers may be pulling back on private label spending. Commonly found in supermarkets and drugstores, private label products are often the fallback for price-conscious consumers. Retailers spend countless dollars and hours figuring out the right mix of branded and private label products to put on store shelves. Treehouse Foods is one of the largest private label manufacturers in the United States, serving companies like Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, and Trader Joe's. They have had several strong quarters in a row as shoppers chose their products over the more expensive name brands. But now, shoppers are pulling back further and without a lower-cost alternative to turn to. But Treehouse Foods is not giving up. They are working with their suppliers to lower costs further and re-examining the range of products they offer. They have plans to cut $250 million in supply chain costs between now and 2027. As always, the secret is to read the consumer and grow in the areas where private label has the greatest opportunity to expand. That opportunity would seem to be changing, so hopefully they can read the signals right and adjust accordingly.
1.
By now, you probably know that we are hosting our first in-person event ever this May. Catalyst LA will take place at the beautiful Newhouse Studios on Sunset Boulevard. The building was originally the home of CBS Studios, the world's first structure built specifically for broadcasting. Many famous artists performed there, including Orson Welles, Lucille Ball, Janis Joplin, the Beach Boys, and Bob Dylan. We welcome CPOs, heads of procurement, and digital transformation leads to save your spot and join us on May 6th to script the next chapter in your organization's spend management evolution.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.